Hello everybody, and welcome back for a new reading. Hope you're all doing fine. Let's continue. Here we go. Doris Gutierrez. Mr. Riccardi has nodded. The head housekeeper. Excellent employee. Probably my best. She was on 3 the last time I heard from her. Did she have... Alice wouldn't see it. Instead, she made a gesture that had become almost familiar to Clee as the index finger across the lips, indicating shh. Alice put her right hand to the side of her face, with the thumb close to her ear and the pinky in front of her mouth. No, Mr. Riccardi said, almost primly. Employees have to leave them in their lockers while they're on the job. One violation gets them reprimand. 2 and they can be fired. I tell them this when they're taken on. He lifted one thin shoulder in a half shrug. It's management policy, not mine. Would you have gone down to the second floor to investigate those sounds? Alice asked. Possibly, Mr. Riccardi said. I have no way of knowing. I only know that I haven't heard from her since she reported the wastebasket fire out. But she hasn't answered her pages. I paged her twice. Clay didn't want to say. You see, it isn't safe here. Either right out loud. So he looked past Alice at Tom, trying to give him the basic idea with his eyes. Tom said, how many people would you see are still upstairs? I have no way of knowing, if you had to guess. Not many. As far as the housekeeping staff goes, probably just Doris. The day crew leaves at 3, and the night crew doesn't come on until 6. Mr. Riccardi pressed his lips tightly together. It's an economy gesture. One cannot say measure because it doesn't work. As for guests, he considered. Afternoon is a slack time for us, very slack. Last night's guests have all checked out, of course. Checkout time at the Atlantic Inn is noon, and tonight guests won't begin checking in until 4 o'clock or so. On an ordinary afternoon, which this most definitely is not. Guests staying several days are usually here on business, as I assume you were, Mr. Riddle. Clay nodded without bothering to correct Riccardi on his name. At mid-afternoon, business people are usually out doing whatever it was that brought them to Boston. So you see, we have the place almost to ourselves. As if to contradict this, there came another thump from above them, more shattering glass and a faint feral growl. They all looked up. Clay, listen, Tom said. If the guy up there finds the stairs, I don't know if these people are capable of thought, but judging by what we saw on the street, Clay said, even calling them people might be wrong. I've got an idea that guy up there is more like a bug trapped between a window and a screen. A bug trapped like that might get out if it found a hole, and the guy up there might find the stairs. But if he does, I think it'll be by accident. And when he gets down and finds the door to the lobby blocked, he'll use the fire door to the alley, Mr. Riccardi said. With what was, for him, eagerness. We'll hear the alarm. It's rigged to ring when anyone pushes the bar, and we'll know he's gone. One last nut to worry about. Somewhere south of them, something big blew up, and they all cringed. Clay supposed he now knew, Clay supposed he now knew, but living in Beirut during 1980s had been like? I'm trying to make a point here, he said patiently. Well, I don't think so, Tom said. You're going anyway, because you're worried about your wife and son. You're trying to persuade us because you want company. Clay blew out a frustrated breath. Sure, I want company, but that's not why I'm trying to talk to you into coming. The smell of smoke's stronger, but when's the last time you heard a siren? None of them replied. Me neither, Clay said. I don't think things are going to get better in Boston. Not for a while. They're going to get worse. If it was the cell phones. She tried to leave a message for Dad, Alice said. She spoke rapidly, as if wanting to make sure she got all the words out before the memory flew away. She just wanted to make sure he picked up the dry cleaning because he needed her yellow wool dress for committee meeting, and I needed my extra uni for away game on Saturday. This was in the cab, and then we crashed. She choked the man, and she bit the man, and his turban fell off, and there was blood on the side of his face, and we crashed. Alice looked around at their three staring faces, then put her own face in her hands and began to sob. Tom moved to comfort her, but Mr. Riccardi surprised Clay by coming around his desk and putting one pipe-stemmy arm around the girl before Tom could get to her. There, he said. I'm sure it was all a misunderstanding, young lady. She looked up at him, her eyes wide and wild. Misunderstanding? She indicated the dried bib of blood on the front of her dress. Does this look like a misunderstanding? I used the karate from the self-defense class I took in junior high. I used karate on my own mother. I broke her nose. I'm sure. Alice shook her head rapidly, her hair flying. And still, if I hadn't been able to reach behind me and get the door open, she would have killed me, Clay said flatly. She would have killed you. She would have killed me, Alice agreed in a whisper. She didn't know who I was. My own mother. She looked from Clay to Tom. It was the cell phones. She said in that same whisper. It was the cell phones, alright? So how many of the damn things are there in Boston? Clay asked. What's the market penetration? Given the large numbers of college students, I'd say it's got to be huge, Mr. Riccardi replied. He had resumed his seat behind his desk, and now he looked a little more animated. Comforting the girl might have done it, or perhaps it was being asked a business-oriented question, although it goes much further than affluent young people, of course. I read an article in Inc. only a month or two ago that claimed there's now as many cell phones in mainland China as there are people in America. Can you imagine? Clay didn't want to imagine. Alright, Tom was nodding reluctantly. I see where you're going with this. Some terrorist outfit rigs the cell phone signal somehow. If you make a call or take one, you get some kind of subliminal message, I guess, that makes you crazy. Sounds like science fiction, but I suppose 15 or 20 years ago, cell phones as they now exist would have seemed like science fiction to most people. I'm pretty sure it's something like that, Clay said. You can get enough of it to screw you up righteously if you even overhear a call. He was thinking of Pixie Dark. But the insidious thing is that when people see things going wrong all around them, their first impulse is to reach for their cell phone and try to find out what's causing it, Tom said. Yeah, Clay said, I saw people doing it. Tom looked at him bleakly. So did I. what all this has to do with you leaving the safety of the hotel, especially with dark coming on, I don't know, Mr. Riccardi said. As if in answer, there came another explosion. It was followed by half a dozen more marching off to the southeast like a diminishing footsteps of a giant. From above them came another thump and a faint cry of rage. I don't think the crazy ones will have the brains to leave the city any more than that guy up there can find his way to the stairs, Clay said. For a moment he thought the look on Tom's face was shock, but then he realized it was something else. Amazement, maybe. A dawning hope? Oh Christ, he said, and actually slapped the side of his face with one hand. They won't leave. I never thought of that. There might be something else, Alice said. She was biting her lip and looking down at her hands, which were working together in a restless knot. She forced herself to look up to Clay. It might actually be safer to go after dark. Why is that, Alice? If they can't see you, if you can get behind something, if you can hide, they forget about you almost right away. What makes you think that, honey? Tom asked. Because I hid from a man who was chasing me, he said in a low voice. The guy in the yellow shirt. This was just before I saw you. I hid in an alley behind one of those dumpster thingies. I was scared because I thought there might not be any way back out if he came in after me, but it was all I could think of to do. I saw him standing at the mouth of the alley looking around, walking around and around, walking the worry circle, my grandma would say. And at first I thought he was playing with me, you know, because he had those see me go into the alley. And it was only a few feet ahead of him. Just a few feet. Almost close enough to grab. Alice began to tremble. But once I was in there, it was like, I don't know, out of sight, out of mind, Tom said. But if he was that close, why did you stop running? Because I couldn't anymore, Alice said. I just couldn't. My legs were like rubber, and I felt like I was going to shake apart. And I felt like I was going to shake myself apart from the inside. So I'm going to stop it with this one. Thank you very much for listening. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye bye.